History Inside a Nutshell, the show where we sail into our port of call discussing maritime history. In today's video, and in honour of Halloween, I have decided to create a last-minute video, but also to announce a very special mini-series. This is due to the fact that from my previous video on the story of the Octavius, I found that the video has received a lot of reviews and positive comments, and honestly, I cannot thank you enough. I was really shocked when I found out how many views I got for the video from its upload on Friday. So a massive thank you, and if you haven't already, please go check out the video, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more future videos. And because of this, I have decided to do a small series of ghosts and paranormal activity cases, which focus on ghost stories and lots of activities that have been going on involving maritime ships. But also in the near future, I will be considering going outside of maritime history in these cases to talk about other eras of history, such as the Wars of the Roses and the murders of kings and queens. But I will explain it all a bit more in a future video. And with that being said, I thought that the first activity, well, paranormal activity case that I want to look at is the RMS Titanic. Now, of course, it is the easiest subject to discuss about because everyone knows the story of the Titanic, but I was looking for some stories that were never touched, and it was very hard to find with all the research, but I came across one case that really surprised me the most. But it is understandable, and throughout the whole entire process, especially writing this script, I thought about sharing this unusual case. But of course I will be saying it, just reminding myself that at the end of the day, the Titanic was a natural disaster, and where the paranormal activity is located, it's located on a grave site. Without further ado, let's get on with the first case of the Paranormal Files. Case 1. The RMS Titanic. On the 15th of April 1912, the White Star liner, the RMS Titanic, sank 740 kilometers off the coast of Newfoundland in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean following a collision with an iceberg, ending with the tragic loss of over 1,500 passengers and crew. On the 1st of September 1985, a Franco-American expedition team discovered the Titanic lying 13,000 feet underwater. Nearly 4 decades later, the ship has been the topic of history, controversy, and paranormal activity. There have been Titanic paranormal cases over the years, mainly in exhibitions and museums, including the Titanic Museum in Branson, Missouri, which is considered the most haunted Titanic museum in the world. While there have been cases above the surface, more paranormal activities in the Atlantic Ocean have occurred from the sinking to today. There have been no explanations behind them. However, considering that 1,160 bodies were never recovered, it does explain the number of activities that have occurred where the Titanic rests today. So, what did cargo ships, passenger ships, and submarines see while they were sailing near and at the wreck site? The first case we will be looking into is strange orbits of light. It's not known what time of day the lights appear, but there have been cases of the light glowing or flickering above the water and beneath the waves. Understanding the light, this is possible that the orbs came from the ship's public spaces, like the promenade and boat decks. However, since the ship sank on a clear, moonless night, the lights on board had made the Titanic very bright. Some survivors said that the lights remained on when she went down by the head with some bodily submersion and a port list, as mentioned on the website Encyclopedia Titanica. However, before the final plunge, the power had faded, but only her emergency lights on the stern were on. They gave a reddish glow before the ship had split into two pieces. It isn't mentioned what colour they were in this eyewitness account, but Thomas Ranger, who was a greaser, described what he saw in the Titanic's final moments from lifeboat number 4. According to the book On a Sea of Glass, Ranger recalled that as the stern section had come back on a lower keel, the lights seemed to be going out then. Ranger also noticed the lights were right aft what was burning, on the after end what was floating, and that they were only completely distinguished as the after end of the ship went under. Also, there have been claims from both cargo and passenger ships that have heard people screaming for help and orchestral music, which made people feel a sense of dread and unease. The sounds of the orchestral music came from Titanic's musicians who, at the time of the sinking, were playing music to keep the passengers calm on the deck while the crew prepared the lifeboats. Again, it isn't known what song was played, but it was likely that it would have been the hymn Nearer My God to Thee. As for the screams, they had begun after the Titanic completely disappeared beneath the waves. According to an account from Third Officer Herbert Pittman from the US inquiry into the disaster, he described to Senator William Alden Smith the chorus of the cries of the people in the water. According to Pittman, the screams lasted for an hour, maybe less. The cries of people drowning haunted survivors for the rest of their lives, and it must have been heartbreaking to hear the noises then and in the present day. While the next case also occurs above the surface, this one is the most spine-chilling. If you believe in ghosts and are afraid of them, chances are they'll make you jump out of your skin. However, there have been cases where ghosts are friendly and they want to interact with the living. This happened in 1977 when a ship called the SS Winterhaven had a passenger who was given a tour of the ship, and the tour was led by Second Officer Leonard Bishop. When he was giving him the tour, Bishop had claimed the passenger had a soft-spoken British accent, but he thought the passenger seemed out of place. Years later, someone showed Bishop a picture of a familiar face. In response, Bishop said, "I know that man! I gave him a tour of my boat." The passenger Bishop interacted with was Captain Edward John Smith. In the third and final case, and this takes place underneath the surface, there have been reports of strange signals being heard on radios inside the submarines that have sailed near the wreck site. Again, there's not much information about it, but reports say that people have heard CQD and SOS messages on the radios that have no verifiable source. This doesn't explain how, why, and if they were happening, but it is a guess that it could have come from the apparatus in the Titanic's Marconi room. At the time of the maiden voyage, there have been 2 operators named Jack Phillips and Harold Bride. Like Captain Smith, Jack and Harold are without a doubt heroes of the disaster, as they tried to send messages to call for help. As much as I would like to go on, I have a feeling that Jack and Harold's story needs to be told in a separate video, and in the main future I will be doing one of them. So there you have it. 3 paranormal activity cases that have happened and continue to happen in the North Atlantic Ocean. While this video was made for Halloween and it was the Kickstarter to the mini-series, it is also important to remember the lives that have been lost on this terrible night. We will never forget them, and we will remember their families and friends over 100 years later. And with this case is closed. Do you have a case that should be mentioned in the series? Head over to the comments below and it will possibly be covered in a future video. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please subscribe for more historical content. Until next time, this has been History Inside a Nutshell, departing from the docks. Thank you so much for all of your support and enjoy the rest of your voyage.